Today we're back in Tallahasse, Florida, but today we're going to check out something different. Today we're going to see the Tallahasse Museum, or it's also called the Tallahasse Museum of Natural History and Science. It's worth noting this place is just off in the woods. It's just back in the woods. If there weren't signs, you would never know it's here. So I've never been here before, but just coming in, this place kind of seems like the mixture of a zoo. It has some like tree to tree zipline type things and Florida History Museum. It's like they mashed all of those together and it's all in one. All along all the trees they have courses and obstacles that you can climb across. Of course you're harnessed up for safety. The first area we come to is called Big Bend Farm, and it appears as if it is a reconstruction of very early Tallahasse, Florida, like this metalworking shop. Everything from the oven to the anvil here. There's an anvil there too. This is where they bent and shaped and melted down metal. That giant stoker there. There's a little cabin over in this way. And this is really interesting. A very, very old archery board to practice throwing knives or hatchets or shooting arrows. And this is kind of neat. Some kind of roller system. Oh, I see what. It's a cane mill. That's what it is. It's a cane mill. The cool part about the place is, so far, that they've mixed these old historical buildings in with real wildlife. There's another old area here. I don't know if this is part of the cane mill or not, but it looks like a giant oven or something right here. And over here is a giant barn with this big guy hanging out. Here's another area with live animals, billy goats. All the animals are just kind of hanging out, laying down, chilling. Here's another old barn here that has some sheep laying down on the inside of it, right inside the door there. Hey buddy. Ah, taking you a break? This is an old smokehouse. They would take their meat and have a fire down here, smoking, and smoke their meat. Smoking their meat meant that it would last them a lot longer back during these times. They did not have refrigerators or even electricity. And of course you can't forget the outhouse over there. Looks like the entrance to the cabin is right here. The McNair Black Farmhouse, 1822. Inside the cabin, they had their beds. They don't look very comfortable now. There's even a crib there for a baby. This is their washing station. It's not like bathrooms of today, that's for sure. And a kitchen area. The wood burning stove.
They've been restored to a certain extent, but most of the wood in these buildings is the original.
Then we get to a building that has a grist mill in it. Quality products from Shepherd's Mill. Check out this giant Dinosaur. It's made completely out of car parts. Like these are frame pieces. These are leaf springs. All of it's made out of car parts. That's crazy. All these pieces hanging off here, pistons. This is the snake section. We're gonna avoid that area. We're walking back here in a trail right now that was called Wildlife Florida. Already, here's another sculpture. It's a pterodactyl made out of car parts. Oh, there's several of them out there. I see 3 of them, at least. A stegosaurus. Over here on the Opposite side is a brontosaurus wrapped around the tree here. Hidden over here on this side, this is a triceratops. If you look right on the other side of this, it's like swamplands. So they had to put a fence up to keep gators and other wildlife out. A dimetrodon. Looks like an alligator. Well, isn't that clever? It's still made out of car parts, but it's all rusted, and this is supposed to represent a fossil. Back here behind it, this is an Allosaurus, but with the fossil of a larger one laying here in front of it. And then we have the Ankylosaurus. There's some more metal sculptures, flamingos or something. There's some live turtles in there. It's really cool that they have combined so many different things into one museum. Very cool. And we haven't even seen half of it yet. The giant anteater. Goodness gracious. Goodness, they went lying when they said giant. Wow, I did not expect it to be that big. We are now entering a birds of prey section. A giant tent with birds inside of it. Looks like there's a vulture sitting right here on the fence. You want to do an interview, buddy? Huh? You want to do an interview? You're going to be on YouTube. I said there was a bald eagle in here somewhere. I did not see the bald eagle though. That would have been awesome. I can only imagine these trees have probably been here a long, long time. There's some white-tailed deer. Look at that guy. The thing you run into quite often out here is that a lot of these exhibits out here anyways are closed. The reason why that is not too long ago a Hurricane Michael came through this area and tore up everything. And even driving in to here from the Alabama line where we were staying, you can see all the devastation that's still everywhere. And now we are at the section that again has some older buildings. These buildings here on display, these are authentic, non-restored buildings that were actually used in this area during the Civil War. This one we're going to walk into first. This was the schoolhouse. You see the giant chalkboard there on the wall and the teacher's desk. All the students would have been sitting here. This would have been their heater, wood burning stove. Obviously now that they've got electricity run in it, just for this, the purpose of this museum, it would not have had electricity during that time. And this was a church used at the exact same time during, it's a pretty big gap there, the floor is starting to fall. This would have been used during the Civil War. The stained glass is still 100% intact. Over here is an original organ that has always been in this church. They've encased it in glass so no one would touch it. Even in the floor you can see straight down to the ground. That's not good. And in my opinion, even cooler than the church and the school, they have an old plantation house also that has survived from the Civil War and is now on display here. This plantation was known as Bellevue, built by Catherine Murrett in 1854. This was her parlor area. Miss Murrett, she owned slaves, but this was a cotton plantation. We're gonna head upstairs. Here's some artifacts that were found in the house. A darning egg, embroidered collar. And this was her bed chambers. The couch and her bed, a wash area next to it over there. a luxurious dresser there. While Catherine Murrett lived here, it would have been slave quarters and cotton fields as far as you could see. She was the head of a cotton plantation, and that's how she made all of her money. Detached from the house is the kitchen area where her slaves would have fixed her dinner, and they would have eaten in here as well. The kitchen areas were always detached from the plantations because of the amount of heat and noise that come out of the kitchen houses. Here off the back of the plantation home, this was one of the slave cabins for one of the slaves who picked the cotton. Catherine Murrett, she had 25 slaves and she owned 8 of these houses. All 25 of them slept between the 8 houses. Basically, this is it. It's a dirt floor, a fireplace, a storage area, or you know, could have been used as a sleeping area. Not quite how their beds would have been, but nonetheless, you know, their beds would have been raised up off the floor. And table and chairs for how many ever people lived in this cabin to eat or drink. And then once you exited all of these slave quarter areas, which would have been all out into the woods here, you would have been able to walk back a little bit further and you would have gotten to the ginormous cotton fields. And lastly, they have an old caboose on display. Amazing. All original wood. All the metal is original. They have it open for you to enter.
Mama, look! I got that.
This is what it would have looked like. An eating area, as well as their sleeping area. This would have been their washing area. They would have stored water in these tanks and used this to bathe. The calendar there, the last date that was pulled on it was January 1943. You can see here it's pretty rough on top of it after all these years. And that's gonna do it for here at the Tallahasse Museum. We are gonna leave and start heading back towards Alabama for the night. And this was a really cool place. I love how they mixed all the different eras together, and then they had the treetop adventure, which seems to be very popular here. So I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow for sure. Thank you all. Have a great day.